So here we have a Frobana made in West Germany sole stitching machine. It's got its top cover off, and we'll just have a quick look at how the machine works. So it's a curved needle machine. The curved needle works through this assembly here, and you'll see it come out underneath in the slot here. And the bottom is a basic shuttle style hook similar to a Singer 47K series. So we have the sharp tip of the hook just under here, and that's going to come up behind the eye of the needle to pick up the thread. And it's an oscillating shuttle. Similar to many old sewing machines. Now it's all cam driven, so we've got our main cam here at the back, which drives two different crank arms underneath the machine. Under there, one of those crank arms is for the feed dog lift up and down, and one is for the feed dog return left and right. So if we look under here where the needle is, we'll see our feed dogs come up, move to the left, and drop. And so the height and the return is operated by the two cams. On this machine, one of those crank arms was broken, so the cam wasn't following and the feed dogs weren't lifting. The Frobana also has a second option. Rather than feed dogs, it's a small cutting knife to sort of cut a groove into the sole for the stitches to sit right into. Yet to try that one. The front lip above on the top foot, so to speak, is designed to put a nice little crease and get tight in against the shoe as well as you sew the sole, the uppers down to the sole. So what's fancy about these is they're very simple. It's all gear and cam driven in the top here, and basically this drives our needle here. The gears for the sewing hook are fairly straightforward, being an oscillating hook. And the needle bar is driven and released. Our adjustments are fairly simple. This knob here is the stitch length, and that basically has a pin going in which restricts how far the feed dogs return. So they're always driven forwards the same amount, but they return less distance if the pin is wound in further. This adjustment on the side is for the height or the gap of our start position of our presser feed there, our presser foot, and that can also be altered internally by this knob, which gives us our base setting, so we can wind it right up to quite an open one for thicker soles, and then you still have your adjustment knob to make a bit of variation in that. And then you've got your crank here, which lifts your presser foot, and depending on the position that your needle is in, it will act as a ratchet and hold it open, then releases when the hand wheel is driven, or depending on the position, it will just act to lift it up independently. Now, because it's a curved needle, the needle tends to swoop around in front of the sewing hook, and so where the needle is held in, which is this is the needle clamp here, the needle clamp has an adjustment on the back side of this clamp on this side. And this lower adjustment here slightly changes the angle of the needle, so you can get the needle so it lines up in this little hole here when you need to thread it. So if it's all lined up nicely, you can bring just inside the eye there, you can see directly through the eye of the needle. And if you adjust the clamp on the back, that will slightly change the twist of the needle to make sure it lines up. And you can see the needle is just clamped in the top there. Now, depending on the amount of clearance between the needle and the hook, the only adjustment you have to bring the needle in is by filing the seat that this needle sits in, so it'll sit a little bit deeper or a slightly deeper angle at the front, and that will then bring your needle closer to your sewing hook. So it's a fancy machine, but very simple in principle. Now, to run standard polyester threads, what I've done here is added a set of normal tension discs, because the wax thread would easily drive this disc, which only acts to add pressure with the spring, doesn't close the discs together. That's one part, and so the thread has to wrap it around it 2 or 3 times, and the current modern threads will just slip in that disc rather than driving the disc. So what I've done is added normal tension units here, so we can get enough pressure, enough tension on the thread, even using modern polyester threads. And this is a 10 weight thread, and it seems to sew really nicely with it. So there's the Frobana. The next video will be of it sewing. The other interesting about the Frobana is underneath has a burner, a paraffin burner, so you can light that little flame, and that lets heat come up through here and escape here, which heats up the hook. So with old wax threads, the paraffin burner would soften this, heat this whole area and soften the wax threads for it to sew. But when you clean one of these machines, you realize how detrimental the wax was, because it's all through the bobbin case area and it clogs quite a bit of the machine up. So these modern threads will actually keep the machine a lot cleaner.